Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello, welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. Mikey, Stafford here, joined by Rory O'Neill as always, and Jackie Tyrrell is here with us to talk ahead of a massive weekend of hurling. How are you doing, Jackie?
Good, how are you, Mikey?
Grand. I say a massive weekend of hurling. There's a massive game in Munster. I've heard, I think it's being played in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So, no, 43,000 people expected for Cork's do or die clash with the All-Ireland champions Limerick in Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It's going to be the biggest crowd there since the last time they played rugby there, I think. So this is huge. And we've also got a couple of games in Leinster where we have Dublin v Antrim, which is very intriguing now because you could throw a napkin over most of the teams in Leinster at this stage. So who's going to get the third and even the second spot is very much up for grabs. And Carlow are playing Kilkenny as well. Later on, Peter Canavan will be here to discuss a couple of provincial finals and the start of the Tailteann Cup. But we will start with matters Lee side, I think, Jackie, because it's, you know, every Munster match gets hyped up at this stage, especially when they're not on the telly. But this one does seem seismic because, lest we forget, Cork gave Limerick a right good fright last year. It was only a point in it and 325 to 130 in the Gaelic ground. So the logic would be they get them on their own patch this weekend, Jackie. They've got their backs to the wall. This is when we're going to see the best of Cork, is it?
You know, like, I think to be fair to them, for large passages of the last game against Clare, we've seen a lot of good about Cork. They really brought the intensity. They were shooting really efficiently. Just defensively, as we've spoken about, just kind of seemed to get caught out again. They seem bullish this week. Rory has the red on. They're announcing their team on Thursday. They look like they're going to go for it. They have to go for it. I suppose the frustrating thing from the Cork thing is, why did they need a kick in the backside the first week against Waterford for them to jolt into action against Clare? But look, they have the All-Ireland champions coming to town. There's a lot of razzmatazz around it. You know, you're going to have nearly a full house. And Cork people are probably going to turn out and really, really try to get behind this Cork team because they have to win. They really, really have to win. And we have seen with this Cork team, when the backs are to the wall, they do generally front up. It's just whether they can shore up that backline enough. You look at Kieran Joyce missing again a huge hole. Looks like Rob Downey's going to go to 6. Might have huge questions over that. Will even Tim Manny go there and you know, Downey to the wing? You know, it's I like to see Owen Downey at 3. I do think that's a big plus for them and will help them. But it's just they have the scoring forwards. They have a really pacey midfield and attack. Can they somehow get a defensive performance out of 6 backs, supported by their 2 midfield, to hold out this this Limerick attack that is so potent? Yeah,
Rory, Kieran Joyce is, you know, long been seen as the integral linchpin there, the man to fill that 6 jersey, and you know, but despite him being there, you know, the scorelines being conceded are not good. 326, 225, 325, 222, 225, and they're their most recent Munster results. I'm not sure if Joyce was playing for all of them, but he's playing for most of them. So you would fear them coming up against the best team in the country, arguably in history, it could be said, by the end of this year, without that linchpin.
Yeah, I suppose if you start with the problem, you might work your way some way towards a solution. Everybody knows Cork are conceding too much. I had a good look at the Clare game, even the game last year against Limerick, and even the game against Waterford, which I watched earlier a bit last week. The reality for me is, I don't actually think it's the 6 defenders are the problem. If you kind of take a sort of an overview and you sit back and you kind
of...
a holistic view. I think it's the rate, the pace and the frequency with which the ball gets out from the opposition's defence and the number of times that it comes forward. So what is the problem there? The problem, I think, and Jackie, look, you know better with ball coming in on top of you and the pace at which it comes in and how frequent it comes in, and probably worked with some of the most hardest working forwards in the likes of Martin Comerford and Henry and Owen Larkin, lads that just put in Richie Power, lads that put in shifts to firstly slow down the number of times that it's coming in, and secondly try and impair the quality of what's coming in. And if you look at that Cork forward line going into Sunday, it's going to be ping pong again. It is 100% going to be up and down, and we're back into a shootout. Can Cork win shootouts? Well, obviously not. And you're going up against the best team in the country, and you're going to basically go in there with hope. And as we know, hope is not a strategy. So I don't know.
Certainly not against Limerick.
It's not like, and I know people have mentioned about Kieran Joyce and the last day Mark Rogers, I think he scored 1-6. I still think Joyce has had a good game. I think if you slow down the amount of ball that's coming out of that Clare defence and the frequency with which it's coming out, I don't know if Mark Rogers scores 1-6, and I don't know if Peter Duggan and Davy Fitzgerald and Shane O'Donnell have the games that they do. You know, like if you look at Limerick or the current standard bearers on this, they worked at Gillane. Oh, Peter Casey obviously as well. No, he's missing obviously 2, and it will be like both Caseys are out, and obviously Dara O'Donovan might be fit to maybe make the bench, but there won't be any whinging in terms of who they don't have. And I think Cork have to adopt that attitude as well. That's just the nature of this competition now. It's week on week, and there are going to be weeks you're going to lose, lads. But I just think in a defensive sense, it starts at the top of the field, and Cork's forwards do not work hard enough.
What do you make of that, Jackie? Are you going to give the Cork defenders a bit of an out here? Go along with Rory's theory?
There is merit to what Rory says, but essentially I think that's a free pass for the defenders, because if you look at this defence, how many times have we seen... look, we can all acknowledge that Cork do score enough to win games. So that means the ball in possession is in the other half for long enough for them to be organised, to be tight enough, to be defensively strong, that the other team are under enough pressure dealing with all these scores that are going over the bar. It's not like Cork are under incessant pressure for 70 minutes. There's just elements of the game where they fall asleep. And the issue I would have is Kilkenny played Cork in the second round of the league, and we covered a live game. And 10 minutes into the game, I still vividly see it. And he's probably going to be centre back or wing back to his 10. Adrian Mullen started a run from a puck out 30 yards from the Cork goal, ran to midfield. Rob Downey just stood. Owen Murphy just plonked a ball down with no real precision, didn't need him. Adrian Mullen caught it, ran another 10 yards. At that stage, Rob Downey made some sort of an effort to come out and just hit it over the bar. 15 minutes later, Rob Downey was gone. And those same lack of concentration, lack of defensive instincts, and particularly, and Donald did a good piece the weekend where a Clare player penetrated a half back line, and he highlighted 4 Cork defenders, midfielders that just stood there, didn't track back. And as a thing with Kilkenny, we always said, if the half back line is penetrated, the half back line, you have to get back, because a full back line is going to have to go and meet him, and they could get back, they could funnel back, get bodies back. Cork don't defend as units, defend as individuals, and they defend as an individual line. So the full back line have their duties, they have no cohesion, no terms of passing players off. There's just these lovely little soft spots that appear in the Cork at defence that players can just drift into, find a pass, and next thing they're through or over the bar. And you've the same characters being regurgitated again. Tim O'Mahony, we didn't see him to start the year. He's suddenly back in the fold. Hasn't really cut it as a defender. Rob Downey, we seen a couple of years ago, he was full back in All-Ireland final, got tore apart. He's regurgitated back into the system. Owen Downey, who I think is one of their better defenders, is now back. Sean O'Donoghue is a mainstay. But they don't have a consistent... You look at Limerick, their same 5 or 6 defenders are always there. Always there. You look at the good teams, they've consistency at 3 and 6, and the other 4 positions, they'd normally have 2 or 3 regulars. Cork, it's just throw up the cards whatever way they fall. And one week you could be centre back, the other week you might be seen for 3 or 4 weeks. And it's by default, lads are getting chances again. It's not due to injury. It's not due to anything else other than, do you know what, our defence isn't performing. Sure, we'll try so-and-so in this week. And that's probably not good enough at this stage of the championship. You should have this all earned out through your league campaign.
So that's the problems at the back. At the front, Rory, where like no one denying Cork are scoring enough. They are just not quite enough to win their first 2 games, obviously. But in Alan Connolly, they obviously have a man who has been earmarked as, you know, an exemplar goal scorer. I can't remember where I saw the stats. I think it was in an Irish Examiner piece. He went about 20 minutes before he saw any ball in one of their 2 matches this year.
That was Watford.
That was Watford, yeah. That was the Watford.
Without a doubt.
You can't imagine, Rory, those hard-working Limerick forwards and, Finn, Morrissey and Nash are going to make it any easier for Connolly to get the ball. And it does seem to me, everybody against Limerick score goals is pretty much vital, and he's the man to score the goals for Cork, and it's very difficult to see how he's going to see more of the ball on Saturday night than he did against Watford.
He'll need better quality supply. He's probably going to need to go looking for it a little bit more. Does that mean he drifts further out? I suppose, look, it depends on what his brief is. I'd imagine he's probably been told stick inside and stay in there. But look, if he gets possession, I think he can do damage. I think you made an interesting point about the fixture last year, and I think sometimes it's forgotten. And Cork don't do whinging, which is a good thing. Yeah, so I'm going to do it for them. Like, people tend to forget last year's game. Like, Aaron Gillan was given a penalty which should have been a free out, right? He was grabbing Sean O'Donoghue's hurley, which they scored, and Damien Cahalane was blown for picking the ball off the ground when TV replays showed that the ball was bouncing. And that's 4 points in a game that you lose by 1. Okay? So, guess who was reffing that game as well, by the way, Mikey? So, look.
Wasn't me.
Yeah. So, I think they've shown the ability to be able to mix it with the very best without getting over the line. Small, little, simple things can sometimes trip you up, particularly in high octane, fraught environments like Munster Hurling Championship, and particularly with your season on the line. That's kind of what you're hoping for again, that they just bring complete and utter old school blood and thunder, and a raucous home crowd gets in behind them. They get a bit of a run. Limerick have potentially a little bit of an off day, which they have shown they're capable of suffering every now and again and still winning, by the way. Right? They'll still have their off day and still manage to pull a victory out, because I didn't think they were particularly good against Clare, for instance, the first day, and obviously turned it on the last day out against Tipperary. But yeah,
they're taking the Gaelic football approach to the championship, Rory.
Look, their season's on the line. Cork season's on the line. If they're beaten, their championship is over on the 12th of May. They went out of the championship last year on 26th of May. There's a long 10 months then.
Certainly is. So, Jackie, we've talked a lot about Cork's woes, so maybe we don't need to deal in quite so much detail with Limerick. Rory's mentioned that they're without 2 Caseys and they're without Darragh O'Donovan, but you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, so what? No offence to the 3 lads, but
exactly. Yeah.
You really kind of say, next man up, next green monster up, really, isn't it?
It doesn't matter, Mikey, because we've seen their most key player, Cian Lynch, missing, along with Declan Hannon, along with Sean Finn. Roll them all out there.
Cian Lynch.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter really with this.
Doesn't matter.
And look, we're just talking about Cork, really. We forget the fact that the All-Ireland champions are coming to town. It doesn't really matter where they go. It doesn't really matter who they play. It doesn't really matter who they're missing. They just find a way to fill those gaps with lads that are just as good, and the way they play the game, that they can just, cover off each other so well. And days when Aaron Gillan will be quiet, Cian Lynch will pull something out of the bag, and they consistently do that. You're kind of hoping for a Cork Aaron Gillan, or a Hoggy maybe having a day of 2-2, Alan Connolly with a 1-3 kind of thing. You're hoping for that. That Limerick guys will stand up. If one guy is having an off day, another guys will. So that doesn't bode well for Cork. So the only thing about from a Cork point of view, they're going to get the most rugged test ever. So they have to know this week they're preparing for absolute war. They know what they're up against. And, we haven't seen too many teams causing Limerick a huge amount of problems. Cork traditionally have throughout the year, the years in the round robin. And even if you go back to that All-Ireland semi-final. So they do have the armour if they bring it to test Limerick and maybe get a result. But there's a lot of ifs in there.
Now, in fairness, Jackie, and you're going to get asked questions like this for the next few months because you're on obviously the last team to try and win 5 in a row, and it was different for you because you were in a Leinster Championship, which, God bless us, wasn't at its strongest at the time. So you probably didn't feel like there was a need to peak during the provincial championship. What have you made of Limerick's 2 performances so far? Because like obviously the last 20 minutes against Clare was fantastic, but they did seem a little tepid against Tipperary when they weren't really tested. So we haven't really seen a 70 minutes yet from Limerick. I'm imagining, much like their injuries, that isn't something that would concern you greatly.
Yeah, but look, I've seen enough to go Limerick are exactly where they were last year. There's a kind of a mirror of how they kind of trudged through the Munster round robin last year, and they seem to be doing a similar thing this year. And look, trudge is probably a bit harsh, but they're not firing on all cylinders, but they are most certainly doing enough. They put Tipperary to the sword when they needed to. I actually think it kind of suits them, the round robin nature, because there's not this 2-3 week gap where there's no match that they can start. People start talking about the 5 in a row. Everyone's just kind of concentrating on the next game. Like we were on a podcast there, the first 15 minutes we're talking about Cork. There's not. I think that the stop that start nature, it lends itself to the environment of, we've not a whole lot to stop. There's no lower games, right? What's the big thing? Limerick in the 5 in a row. But because there's so many games, there's a lot of upsets. Limerick are just tipping away in the background, and the whole world is kind of focusing on, what's going on in Leinster. Cork aren't going great. Tip are kind of up and down. Waterford are resurgent. Suits Limerick down to the ground. Long may it continue.
Yeah. I think as well, Mikey, it's been done. It's been done in football. I think when Jackie's team was going to do it, it hadn't been done by a team in either code. And I think once one team kind of lifts the veil of mystique around it, okay, Limerick will go and do it in a hurling context, but they're not the first team to do it, we'll say, in a Gaelic Games context. And I think that possibly relieves some of the pressure too. And maybe isn't why people are talking about it as much.
Possibly. I think both probably factor into it. I think, the relentless nature of the championship and the match by match. And also with Limerick, there might be a touch of the Man Cities to it, where it seems almost inevitable to a lot of us of a... maybe who aren't as who have a pessimistic nature, not against Limerick, just that you want a little bit of uncertainty in your sport, which at the moment I don't know if Limerick are going to give us. Okay, we'll move on to Leinster, which is the home of uncertainty.
Sure is.
Firstly, Dublin v Antrim. Rory, this is a game you're going to, isn't it? You're stumping for this over the blood and bandages.
Well, it's funny enough, it's the only game not getting a camera on it in some shape or form, and I find that an odd one, given GA go. Particularly, I'm kind of saying, surely this is because it's a big game now, and I'd imagine Antrim are going to be coming all guns blazing. So I'm looking forward to it.
I guess it was chosen at a time when they probably thought Wexford would have won all their games thus far, and these two teams would be playing for 4th and 5th. So, it's the perils of kind of going by the form book when you're picking your matches, I guess. But
at the same time, I suppose, like, you should always look at try and build an element of flexibility into what you're doing in terms of your selections. And like this now,
we're not going to give out though, Rory.
No, we're not giving out. We're not giving out.
Just pointing out.
Yeah, but no, I think it's going to be look, I think it should be a really, really good contest. I think it'll be tight. If Antrim can go and take Wexford down, there's absolutely nothing to suggest that they won't at least believe that they can. Certainly, they have a chance here,
especially with another week off, I think, which would be big for them as well.
Like they've their big game already parked, Kilkenny. Maybe they threw one there. Who knows? It sounds like they did, given their selection the first day out. They've obviously loaded up then for the Wexford game, and now the cat's out of the bag, so they've got to really go for it. But if they can get a win, I think they should be primed for knockout hurling. Then I think they will probably make that 3rd spot. Jackie, would that be fair?
Probably would, and you're probably looking at Antrim back in an All-Ireland series for the first time in 25 years. So, that's the prize available for Antrim this week. It'd be huge, you can imagine Darren Gleeson. He doesn't want to be calling it out too much and putting pressure on him, but, God, for Antrim, because, early part of the year, you kind of looked, lads stepping away from the panel, the momentum that they've built up the last couple of years, Neil Mack gone. Suddenly, that one result has just changed everything completely. So, it's a big game. And likewise for Dublin 3 points to win the weekend, or 5 could be a Leinster final, for Micheál, that'd be huge as well. So this is, to your point, Rory, a massive game for Port, maybe more so for Antrim than Dublin, due to the fact that, look, they have the week off, and if they could somehow get a result the weekend, it just puts them in a great place. So it's mouth-watering. And Antrim do reasonably well in Parnell Park. I often feel Parnell Park doesn't actually bode well for that Dublin team as much as it's made out as a bit of a fortress, because it is But I think for the underdog, it normally works out a bit better. And Antrim are the underdog this weekend.
It's a great ground, by the way. It's a fabulous ground to watch hurling.
Oh, it's amazing.
Right. It is. You're so close. Like
you're right on top.
You've got a good view everywhere.
It's fantastic.
In Park.
Bleeding Kilkenny. That's all you can. I won't finish off the rest of it.
We could paint a picture. Yeah. So if you look at it though, Jackie, Antrim are on 2 points at the moment, but as you say, if they win around 4 and one of their remaining games is Carlow, and obviously, like you're not calling any game for anybody in this Leinster Championship, but Antrim will be looking then at getting to 6 points at least with a off-colour Galway to come as well. Like it's very because there's more games because there's an extra team. It's very hard to do the permutations yet, especially seeing as you cannot rely on two of the supposed bigger teams in Galway and Wexford to win or lose the matches they're supposed to win or lose. Yeah,
you could look. As I said, if Antrim would even get a result, a draw out of Parnell Park could be.
They drew last year, I think, didn't they? In the round
they drew in Cork last year.
Then focus on the Carlow, and then if you could get a result there, win that one, you're 5 points. It's amazing how one result can just flip everyone's kind of mentality, how the group looks. And it just would be an unbelievable. As I said, I think it was in late 80s when they got to the All Ireland, really to be back at
88. Was it?
Yeah, it would just be it'd be unbelievable for them. So, a huge game for both the weekend.
Yeah, Jared Walsh, Rory, and James McNaughton were amazing against Wexford. They were probably the two standout performers in the game. And for Dublin, I guess, who are you looking at there? If you're looking at the game changers for Dublin at the moment, it's still the one obvious candidate.
Well, yeah, Donald Burke will obviously provide the bulk of the scores as usual, whether it's place balls or from open play. But I think, look, from a Dublin perspective, they really need their and it might seem somewhat predictable, but they'll need some of their older players, the leaders, to stand up here and to sort of guide this, because there's a lot of young players, so there's a really good mix between the age groups there. They're still they had a good win the other night in the under-20s again, so Dublin hurling isn't as an appalling a vista as some people are making out. There is still continually good work going on. It's just whether or not that'll translate into senior level. But I think, speaking of senior, I think it's going to be the senior players. It's going to be Danny Sutcliffe, Chris Crummy, those guys that really they're going to have to stand up and drive this on and try and get that win, because they have a great opportunity now by virtue of Antrim beating Wexford. It's a great chance for them too to make knockout hurling once again and keep that momentum going. I think that would mark a big success from a Dublin perspective for this year.
And Danny Sutcliffe's role is actually very interesting this year. Normally, traditionally, half forward, a ballman and half forward, target a lot of puckouts. They've actually positioned him inside a lot this time and drifting out. And he does
drift out, doesn't he, Jackie?
He does. He drifts out, but he's able to stay inside. And he's one of those kind of 3 or 4 players in the country that he catches the ball in his wrong hand. When I say the wrong hand, he holds the hurl in his right hand and actually catches the ball in that hand. Owen Cody does it from time to time as well. You've seen Peter Duggan to do as well. That's actually very hard to mark, because you're kind of concentrating on his spare hand, and then all of a sudden the hurl goes into the spare hand and the other hand comes. It's actually very tricky, very hard to do, and that's why only a small number of lads are doing it. But his aerial ability inside, that could cause some problems for Antrim. And it's interesting, Mihal's ploy of sending him in there. Now he does drift out and pick out some kind of loose ball and can get some good scores. So it's interesting to see that, and how Antrim will try to curtail it. And I'd imagine Paddy Burke, who's an outstanding cornerback, very much under the radar, will probably pick him up. And will look to get forward and drag Danny kind of out the field as well. So there's some really fascinating, interesting matchups as well.
Okay. Finally then, the KCLR derby. Jackie, no offence to Carlow, but I don't think the result here is beyond. I think Kilkenny are the one team immune from this ridiculous Leinster Championship at the moment. They'll probably quietly go about winning or not losing all their games at least. But given what happened in their opening game, do you think Derek Lyng's going to be very conscious of injuries here, Jackie? Will he be doing a fair bit of rotating, or can he afford to do that?
Look, I feel, with all due respect to Carlow, he can. And look, he would know Tom Mullally quite well. a guy based in Kilkenny, and he would know what he's about. He's doing a really good job there. But I think Kilkenny, and this is the difference between Munster and Leinster, if there's any bit of a doubt of maybe one or two key players, he can potentially leave them on the bench and roll the dice with some other guys, and a good opportunity to maybe give some of the guys, the likes of Owen Wall and maybe Jordan Malloy, give these lads a chance and things like that. So it probably is an opportunity for Derek to maybe experiment a small bit as well, because you would expect Kilkenny to get over the line, and you'd expect them to start strong, make a statement, maybe to get an early goal, and put the pressure on Carlow, and see where it rolls from there.
The points difference is only plus 32 at the moment, so they want to work on that. Next closest is Wexford with plus 6, by the way. So
they'll be okay. The only thing from a Kilkenny perspective really is have some of the injuries cleared up. The Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, and was Mikey Carey out? He missed the last game as well? So are they all fit, Jackie, or what are you hearing?
No, I've heard the Owen Cody one. I think he's going to miss a lot of the Leinster Championship, and maybe if Kilkenny got to a Leinster final, he might even miss that. So we definitely won't see him the weekend. Adrian Mullen, I don't expect to see as well. You might see Owen Murphy maybe making a comeback there as well. But look, as I said, that's the beauty of probably the position Kilkenny are in. They can probably rest some of these key guys and expose some of the other lads to maybe some game time. Yeah,
they're going to need everyone fit and firing for Wexford in the last round anyway, because that's.
I'm so worried about that, Mikey. You've such a great record, but I love it because Wexford take over Kilkenny. The town does be purple and gold every. They bring a great, joyous atmosphere to it, And if they, I don't know, there's something about it. You have a bit of a hoodoo overs in general, but particularly down in Nolan Park. So I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not really looking forward to it.
Yeah. My Dublin and Wicklow-born children certainly enjoyed the Galway match. They even got a Lee Chin signature on their hurls. Don't really know who Lee Chin is, but they're very proud of their Lee Chin autograph. So might bring them down to chase TJ Reader on the field then after. Okay, I didn't get predictions, so just I'm going to say Kilkenny, Antrim, Limerick. Rory?
Kilkenny. I'm going to stick with Dublin, and there's no logical reason.
Don't go there, Rory. Don't go there, Rory.
There's no logical reason to back Cork, but look, you just hope that you're hoping. That's all.
He didn't say the L word, did he? He didn't say it, Jackie. And yourself, Jackie?
I'm going to go Limerick, Kilkenny, and a draw.
Limerick, Kilkenny, and a draw. Okay, I was close to a draw on that one already. It's a hard one to call. All right, Jackie, thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll chat to you soon. We'll be back in a minute with Peter Canavan. We've been joined by Peter Canavan to look ahead to the football action this weekend, which consists of the Leinster football final between Dublin and Louth and the Ulster football final in Clonus between Donegal and Armagh, a rematch of the Division 2 League final. And we also have the start of the Tailteann Cup. Peter, which match are you more looking forward to, the Ulster final or the Leinster final?
I can't believe you're asking me that question.
No,
are we on here?
We are. No, I'm just having a bit of fun, but obviously Clonus is where it's at this weekend. A relatively novel pairing. Jim McGuinness putting his frankly ridiculous Ulster Championship record on the line. He's won 15 of 16 matches in charge of Donegal, which is just astonishing, Peter, isn't it?
It's remarkable, and when you consider where they were, this time last year they were struggling, and not many would have expected them for the turnaround to be. They've taken on Tyrone and Derry, they've taken care of them, and now a lot of people are fully expecting that they deliver the Anglo-Celt now. I don't think they have a straightforward job in doing that, but they were brilliant. I thought there was an energy about them against Derry. There was obviously method against Derry. They knew what they were about. Great sense of togetherness. I'm not too sure I've seen that again thrown, to be honest. And it was to be expected in the form that everybody was patting them on the back after the Derry game. The Tyrone game came on them quick enough. They didn't have the same time to prepare. And I thought they were there for the taking. And what we did see against Donegal was their battling qualities. They weren't playing well, but their fitness levels and their battling qualities came to the fore, and they came out on top. And the longer the game went on, in fairness to Donegal, the more likely they were to win it. So they now have a couple of weeks to prepare for the Ulster final, and if they're going to get past Armagh, I think they're going to have to produce the type of form that we witnessed against Derry if they're going to win it, because they're going to be up against a very hungry Armagh side who, to them and to see off what McGeaney, the work that he has undertaken in Armagh, this would be a massive victory for them and a massive Ulster Championship. So look, it's very well set up, very compelling with the managers coming head to head and all the rest. But and the fact they played twice this year, very little has separated them. The game is perfectly set up for Clonus.
Yeah. What kind of a game do you think it'll be, Peter?
I think you have a brave idea what my answer is here in terms of the Donegal approach in the two games has been very much defending from your 45, and you had 15 men behind the ball. You witnessed the Down Armagh semi-final, which wasn't a pretty game of football to watch. And I can't see it going any other way, Rory, than teams, Armagh may be tempted to play one man up and see what Donegal does, but such is the level of expertise and the confidence of the Donegal players, number 1 to 15, I don't think you can afford to leave anybody free or give them space, because they're all very good footballers. So look, it could well be a game of chess again for the first 40, 50 minutes, and it will really open up maybe going into the last 10 or 15 minutes.
It would frustrate you, Rory, in a way, wouldn't it? When, I think Lee Keegan and Michael Murphy in their columns for the RTÉ website and for the Irish Times respectively both kind of, they kind of teed this up as being a bit of a bore fest, a bit of a slugfest, intriguing, that word Pat Spillane used to love. And it's frustrating because you look at, particularly Armagh's front eight, Armagh's front eight, which is, when they're all fit, which they all seem to be fit again now. It's a frightening collection of attacking players, and, they've kind of wavered from an attacking game to a counter-attacking game, but they do seem to be, when the fat's in the fire, they do seem to they'll mirror Donegal, and it's, for the neutral, you're kind of screaming at the TV, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, and in fairness to Ulster football and the Ulster Football Championship, they were obviously, and I think this largely comes out of the universities in Ulster, because it's probably the best laboratory when it comes to Gaelic football and experimentation with tactics and different formats. And McGuinness obviously leading the charge with the type of templated football that most club teams now up and down the country employ. So, but from an Ulster perspective, I get the sense sometimes they have grown, they're an educated football crowd for a start. And I don't think they get too upset about it in the way that maybe some of the rest of us might. And they can understand that there might be a game of cat and mouse here, and that this is effectively who can hold their nerve when the fat goes into the fire. But where I would slightly differ, and where I suppose what I would hope to see is something, because every county plays in a similar way now. Everybody is putting numbers behind the ball. It's not an Ulster thing by any means. But for instance, the Connacht final last week, there were patches where Mayo said, right, look, let's go for a press here for 10 minutes and see what we get. Right, let's sit back. So that there are sort of phases within the game where it just piques interests and shifts momentum, and say, right, look, let's chance it here now for the next 10 minutes. We might have them penned in. We've got a score. Or dander is up. That keeper, he looks a bit ropey. And that you might see something like that, Peter. I don't know. Is that maybe being slightly optimistic?
It's a distinct possibility. And I think Armagh in particular, Rory, might want, for those 5 or 10 minute spells, they would want to be really aggressive. I think they've got the hunger, they've got the energy. Go back to their game with Fermanagh. Do you mind the high press they did and the job they did in turning over Fermanagh and getting scores? So they will believe that they've got the physicality, they've got the energy to do that. But it's, as you say, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to time it when the time is...
And fully commit.
And absolutely fully commit, because I don't think Tyrone did. And the other thing to bear in mind is the selection of the Donegal goalkeeper. Will they have a man who's playing his first Ulster final and a relative newcomer, or will it be Sean Patton? And that could well influence their decision making as well regarding the pushing up thing. Tyrone, I think, showed Donegal too much respect in that it was a half-hearted press at times. They didn't really go for it, and yet they still won 2 of Donegal's kickouts, but Niall Morgan didn't come beyond the 20-metre line. So the fact that Derry got the touch they did from Patton's kickouts, I think, completely scared Tyrone. So a lot will depend on who the Donegal keeper is to begin with, but I wouldn't be surprised.
And a lot will depend on who the Armagh goalkeeper is as well, because they have a decision to make, don't they? Blaine Hughes has been doing a good job, but by all accounts, Ethan Rafferty is back fit, and in some people's eyes, he was their best player last year, most pivotal player in how they play. What would you guess Geezer's going to do there?
I think it would be a massive risk if he was to bring in Ethan Rafferty now. Yes, he can play that position, but Blaine Hughes has performed it very well. His kickouts has been excellent, and the players appear to be very comfortable with him there. And the advantage of having Ethan Rafferty on the bench is that if Armagh do go behind and they do find themselves that they have to chase the game, then they have Ethan Rafferty there to come on. By all accounts, he is fit now to play. So that's a serious option. He has performed well in big games before. He can get up the field, set up scores, and most importantly, he can score from distance. But it would be a gamble, I believe, if McGeeney was to start him.
Yeah, Rory.
1-2-1.
It's not an inconsiderable factor, I suppose, is the occasion and also the venue. I've never had the luck myself to be at an Ulster final in Clonus, but like, they are games that can kind of take on a life for themselves. You know, they're kind of, and especially on a sunny summer's day, which fingers crossed we have. It's different from an Ulster quarterfinal or semi-final. The Ulster finals really do seem to have that kind of febrile atmosphere.
Yeah, and they haven't. Clonus is, I've been up there a few times in a work capacity. I was there once as a supporter. It was Tyrone, or not a supporter, just as a pundit, or as a punter, really. It was Tyrone against Donegal a couple of years. I can't remember what year it was, but it's their first Ulster final meeting. This is 2006. They do meet quite a lot in, because this is their third meeting already this year, and who's to say they won't meet again? But the atmosphere will be rocking. I was talking to a Donegal friend of mine last night. We were playing a club game last night, and I said, "Are you going?" And he said, "I can't get a ticket. My brother is living up there. He can't get a ticket." There was none went on general sale. They all went via the clubs, and it's completely sold out. So you're going to be looking at a sea of green and gold and orange and white. It'll be fantastic. And I think the weather forecast is meant to be good. And we could be in for a long day. I wouldn't be, we've had extra time and penalties in last year's Ulster final. I don't know, did the year before, did that go to extra time as well? Maybe not. But, we've seen, and there's going to be nothing in it. I mean, they drew in the league game. Obviously there was only a point or two separated them in the league final. The two teams are pretty well matched in terms of athleticism, fitness, all of those personnel. They'll know each other inside out. It is going to be extremely tight. Two extremely interesting managers on very different types of journeys. It has all the ingredients really, and hopefully, as I said, I think people have accepted. They don't expect a rollicking game of football from first minute to last, and understand that there are going to be patches where teams will play keep ball and it might be a level of patience required. I think people accept that to a degree, but I suppose what we're hoping is that the team that takes the bigger risks wins, because that's what you want to see, I suppose, in sport.
Before I get your prediction, Peter, I guess it'd be remiss of me not to ask you, would Clonus have been your favourite Ulster final venue?
Yeah, well, we did play it in Croke Park. It wasn't the same. And I'm not in favour of playing provincial games or any games in front of a stadium. That the bigger the capacity, the better. A lot of times we witnessed the semi-finals, the Leinster semi-finals in Croke Park, and I just thought it did nothing to add towards the atmosphere of the game whatsoever. You seen the difference playing the Munster final and Cusack Park made to the atmosphere and to the sense of occasion. So without a doubt, Clonus was a very special place to be on Ulster final day. Number one, the history that's attached to it. You remember as a cub going to big games and Ulster finals, watching your county. It was a massive day out, and to get to play there, front of the hill and all the rest. So it's still, and you only have to listen to the likes of McGeaney and Jim McGuinness talking about what it means for them to play in an Ulster final. So absolutely, there's an aura about the place. That said, it is a difficult place to get out of. Travelling wise, I mean.
I know. Yeah, there's a few places we say that about. Okay, who's going to win it, Peter?
Rory talked about it being the possibility of a long day. I can't see it going any other way, but extra time, and I hope it doesn't go to penalties. But there's a lot of people thinking that it's Armagh's time, that they've waited long enough. They've been there, they've been knocking on the door. That's true. There's no doubt. I think the greater hunger is bound to come from the Orchard County. But the fact that they keep getting there and can't get over the line doesn't mean to say that they should or that they will. And Donegal, on the balance of play, I think they have more natural ball players, more natural footballers, who, if Armagh do decide to get the bodies back, I think Donegal have the greater capacity to score from distance. They have got the ball carriers as well, your Peadar Mogans, your Darrow Boyles, Shane O'Donnell's, Ryan McHughes, but they've also got Kieran Thompsons and Paddy McBrearty, Oisin Gallen, who can score from distance. So I think, I've given Armagh a vote of confidence in that. I felt that they were always going to get to an Ulster final. But I would say, if you're pushing me, I would say Donegal after extra time.
Okay. Rory?
Yeah, I think when we did our previews at the very beginning of the year and we were looking for provincial champions, I went for Donegal. I went for them to beat Derry. I went for them to beat Tyrone. So I'm not going to change now. And I...
Good of you to remind us of that.
Well, just to create a consistency of approach, sure. So people aren't, saying, "Oh, look," all of a sudden. And I suppose, look, the reason is simple. I think McGuinness, I'd imagine the confidence that's coursing through the Donegal panel at the minute, lads. Everything he said, everything he told us, everything he practiced, everything he preaches, it's all working. And I just get a sense from Donegal that there's a momentum in behind them. There's a belief. There's a fervour in the way that they play. They're getting all their best players on the field. I fancy Donegal to win this.
Okay. I'll go against you. I'll go for Armagh just to be contrary. And I'd like to see them get that bit of joy.
We'd all like to see
it's been a bit sentimental, I know, but
all the neutrals would love to see
for no other reason.
Do it, but
so sometimes there's no great reason behind my predictions. I won't ask you for predictions on the Leinster final. My interest here, and I'm not a gambling man, and I don't tend to give the bookies odds or anything like that, Peter. But I'm always fascinated by how close they get with the handicap.
The spread.
Yeah, the spread is 15 points here. So that's all I'm going to be interested. I'm going to be and I'm not being unfair to Ger Brennan and Louth. I don't think I am, but I'm actually curious to see how close the bookies get, because it's freakish how close they get on that. What do you think is 15 over or under?
Well, it totally depends on how much Dublin want to win by, Mikey, and I think whatever they want to win by, they're capable of doing that, and that's no disrespect to Louth. I think it could be a big margin because Louth could well have a cut at them. I don't think Ger Brennan.
It's an admirable quality of Louth that you expect them to go and have a cut off them. Yeah.
Yes, they'll get bodies back, of course. So they'll try and defend, but a feature of their game this year has been the way in which they've gone at opposing teams. They hit Kildare for 17. They could have scored more. I think they got 4-10. 4-10 was it against Wexford. So
yep.
Their defensive.
They scored structure, 6 or 7 goals against Fermanagh.
They did. That's right. So I think Brennan has added that aspect to the game. They've been solid at the back. They're good at working at numbers. Kildare probably let them off the hook a few times in terms of their kick-outs. Whenever Kildare did put the squeeze, it looked as if they could hurt Louth. And the last team you want to be coming up if you're worried about a kick-out strategy is the Dubs, because they'll go for the jugular and they'll hurt you whenever they win your kick-out. So that would worry me. But from my point of view, if you're thinking about the scoreline, I'm looking at 3 Dubs, the elder statesmen in the team, to see their progress this year. They've played very little football. Cluxton, Fitzsimons and James McCarthy. They've been a bit rusty, and maybe that's to be expected in the first game. So I'm looking at those to see right ahead. And to me, that's going to be key, because if Dublin are going to retain their All-Ireland, I think those 3 men are central to it, and they would need to slowly but surely get up to the pitch of things, which Dessie Farrell certainly believes they will.
Yeah. Rory, just to kind of stick with the Leinster final, but not stick with it, because there's obviously a lot of talk about the future of the provincial championships and where they should sit in this calendar. And Kieran Murphy, in his column in the Irish Times, he come up with a kind of interesting proposal this morning, I thought, where he kind of said, let's keep the provincials, then let's keep them in the summer / spring. Let's not put them, slam them back where the McKenna Cup is and the O'Byrne Cup is, because that's really killing them anyway, just by moving them to an inauspicious spot. His suggestion is to treat the provincial championships how English football treats the FA Cup, where you would play around every few weeks, and like it wouldn't be your main competition. Your main competition would be your All-Ireland or your Tailteann Cup group stages, and obviously the league before that. And you would reward the provincial winners with a top seed in the All-Ireland Championship pool the next season. So you're keeping it linked to the championship, and you're keeping it at the height of summer. And his argument is, as a Galway man, he really enjoyed Galway Mayo, and he thought that match had great quality and great. It had a purpose, but he also recognises that Kerry sauntering through Munster and Leinster sauntering through Dublin isn't really the best starting point for an equal All-Ireland championship. So I think there's some merit to a suggestion, I think. I was just wondering what you think.
Yeah, there is. And I don't think it's the first time I've heard something mooted along those lines. I think Turlock O'Brien, former Carlow manager, mentioned something similar, in that the provincial championships should be treated almost like a cup competition played midweek, and it's run interspersed during there's a sort of a break, so you run 3 rounds of the league, then you have your cup competition, we'll say, and that's your first round of the provincial, then you run another couple of rounds of the league. He felt that would probably sustain interest a little bit more and change the dynamic, rather than having blocked off pieces of the calendar whereby, right, now we're doing this, now we're doing that, and now we're doing the other thing. So I have heard that mentioned before. And look, I suppose, in fairness, look, you have to give the GAA credit, and I do as much giving out as anyone, right? They are trying things. They are we've had a lot of different formats, like between, as we mentioned before, between the straight knockout, which we had for nearly 100 years, then went to the back door. Then we had a Super 8s, which I thought was actually a pretty good format. It was just unfortunate. I thought it was a victim of bad timing at the time. We now have the situation whereby your league is intertwined with your championship, and you have your Tailteann Cup, which is your second tier competition. So like there's that, and all of that changes, by the way, has happened since 2000. So in 24 years, we've seen a huge amount of change. And I know the GAA sometimes can be criticised quite a lot for being obstinate, stubborn, slow to embrace evolution and change. I don't know if I'd necessarily go along with that. I suppose where we're all slightly hypocritical is it's not the change that I want to see. Everybody is slightly selfish in that regard. They will have change, but make sure it's the change that I want. And that's just not how a social democracy works, really, I suppose. And I think it's definitely something worth trying. Just one word on Louth. I hope they don't get a pasting like they got last year. If you were to take a leaf out of Mark Fitzgerald's book, try to keep the game reasonably tight, kosher for the first 20-25 minutes at least. The way Clare did against Kerry. I've seen Louth in person twice, because I've nipped over to RD. Cork had to play them twice over there, so I went over. Louth are a very big side. They're actually quite a big physical team. I don't know whether it's the moniker of being the wee county has this notion that they're small lads. They're quite big, they're athletic. They have a couple of very good forwards. I thought last year a little bit naive to try and take Dublin on toe to toe. I think if they sit in, to go back to your original question, I think they lose, but they could definitely get it under double digits.
Okay. We'll see. Finally, before we wrap up, just the Tailteann Cup starts. You mentioned it there. The first round of fixtures: Offaly, London; Sligo, Wexford; Fermanagh, Wicklow; Down, Limerick; Kildare, Longford; Leitrim, Waterford. Excuse me. And then on the Sunday, Antrim, Tip, and Laois, Carlow. Won't ask you for predictions on them, Peter, but I would wonder, listing those teams, like, who do you think has the quality and the motivation? I suppose the motivation being the important thing there. To go on and win this, you're probably, to me, I'd be looking at Down as kind of like screaming favourites there, but that might be doing other teams a disservice. What would you think yourself?
No, I agree with you, Mikey. I would firmly fancy Down to win it. I think Conor Laverty slowly but surely putting together a very strong panel there, and I believe that they're heading in the right direction. And certainly he was hugely disappointed that they didn't get the better of Armagh in the semi-final, and to reach an Ulster final would have been something else. But look, they flattered to deceive last year a wee bit in the Tailteann Cup, so he'll be worried about that. But the Limerick, you would expect them to get off to a good start. The other team is Kildare. We've been waiting on this bounce back for a while, and when I was going through their line out for the Leinster semi-final, they still have brilliant players, and particularly up front, a full forward line that would scare the pants of any team in any competition. So if they get their act together, they still have the raw material to do something, and whether they will or not remains to be seen. And Fermanagh and Wicklow was a massive game on Saturday, because Fermanagh started the year really well. They have a small pool of players to pick from, and Kieran Donnelly's getting the best of them. But Oisin McConville has a team now that have turned the corner big time from the start of the league. So look, there's some intriguing ties. Most disappointing thing about it, the Tailteann Cup, was the selection of some of the venues, and the Kildare's venue I've never heard before. So
it's their centre of excellence.
Yeah. They didn't use it for the Leinster Championship games or for the National League games. I'm not too sure what the story is or why they're using it for the Tailteann Cup.
They travelled to Carlow and to Kilkenny and to, I believe, Tullamore. It was either Offaly or Westmeath for those games. But maybe they're thinking, I think the place is about 1,200 capacity. Maybe they're thinking they won't. Yeah, maybe they're thinking they won't get any more than that. So why pay the expense of renting another county's ground? But you're right, it doesn't set a great tone. Rory, yourself, would you be in the Down bandwagon?
I think there's 4 teams in there competing, and do you know what? It could be quite a little mini league between these 4 teams. It's Fermanagh, Kildare, Down, and Sligo. I put Sligo in there as well, and I think those 4 teams in Division 3 as well next year will be competing to come out of that Division 2, Division 3. That is, since they're all in the same, they'll be in the same league next year, and they'll all be looking to try and get promotion back to Division 2, which obviously secures or certainly gives you a better access to getting into Sam Maguire. So it could become quite a little mini rivalry between those 4 teams. I think who would you fancy to win it? You just wouldn't know. Like Down obviously look to be the most cohesive in terms of there's not as much noise coming out of the camp, and it looks like that he has made good progress. But I've been impressed with Sligo. You know, I think Sligo will look to build. I think they'll definitely target this competition. They've had very good, they've had some excellent underage teams. They've had schools making national Hogan Cup finals. They were in the under-20 All-Ireland final last year. They beat Kerry in the semi-final. You know, they have quality of player coming through that they probably haven't had for a long time. Can they translate that now into proper senior players? I hope they do. I hope they can. And I think they'll bring a lot to the table. In terms of the competition itself, there's been a charm offensive, I suppose, over the last couple of days by lots of the players. I heard Paddy Christie, I've heard Andy Moran, I've heard a couple of players, and all saying, they all love it. I'm not too sure if the public has bought into it. And the last time that I heard this type of narrative drifting out from players and management. So the players love it. It's great for development. Was in relation to a competition called the Railway Cup, and we all know how that finished up. So I'd have concerns. I would that I'm not sure if the public have bought into this at all. And as a competition and as a concept, I think it's heading into a very, very important couple of years. I don't expect the GAA to make any radical changes to it in the short term, but over the next 2 to 3 years, if some of the same faces keep cropping up winning it, for instance, that's one surefire way to kill the appetite. Then you'd wonder,
Yeah.
Is the option is going to America for 3 months a better option for fellas? And younger people these days certainly make different decisions around what they do with their lives.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on the attendance as much as the scorelines, then, as you say. And you keep talking up Sligo now because they're playing Wexford. And if the Wexford footballers take a leaf out of the Wexford Hurlers books, they'll upturn the
they all wrote us off. They all wrote us off.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Peter, thank you very much, and hope you enjoy the weekend's football. Both those provincial finals are on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player, and the Saturday game returns this week, so you'll be able to watch highlights of Cork, Limerick, the Leinster Hurling games, and some of those Tailteann Cup games. So just keep that in mind. And Jackie will return next week with Rory. So until then, good luck and have a nice weekend. Goodbye, everybody.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar.